Before we get started in this horror film that's in theaters right now, please do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button right at the bottom. I see you subscribe button. You gonna get hit.
It literally starts with a jump scare. The movie, it says The Exorcist, and then there's a dog. And I'm like, what the hell? David Gordon Green, the director of Pineapple Express, has decided to direct the sequel to The Exorcist. And it goes exactly as you would expect. It is generic, it is bland, it is paint by the numbers.
You see that our lead character is a photographer, and he's in Haiti with his wife, his pregnant wife at the time. She's going around the streets, and then this kid says, "We have people who want to pray for you." Randomly.
They're like, a blessing for your baby. And I was like, oh, okay, I see what's happening. She's about to get robbed. I see.
That's what I was thinking about to happen.
The movie was just like, no, we just want to bless your baby. And so after watching the movie, I could see why that scene was there. But in the moment, because it's a horror film, I thought you were...
Something horrible was going to happen.
But what that scene was trying to do, in the original film, it had a very strong Catholic view. But they also said in the original Exorcist, the Catholics aren't the only people who do exorcisms. But for this film, while there is some Catholicism here, this film, and I think this is interesting, focuses much more on like, I don't know if it's voodoo, but like some sort of a Haitian voodoo-esque type religion and their version of an exorcism. And to me, I thought, okay, that's a really interesting way into this film. Another religion's perspective on essentially the exact same thing, you know, a demonic exorcism. In my opinion, that's where the originality of the film begins, and that's where it ends.
At the beginning of the film, his wife passes away through a earthquake in Haiti.
They tried to put her in the real life earthquake that happened in Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
He is basically left with a choice to save his wife or his daughter. He can't save both.
They tried to make it seem like it was just this impossible choice. Who would he choose? But the movie, we never were introduced to the baby. Obviously, the baby ain't born. So like, who do you think the audience would care for? I think the movie thought this was supposed to be some sort of a Sophie's Choice thing, but the actual execution of the film, I mean, there's only one choice to make, right? And that happened again later in the film where we had to choose between the two girls. But the movie only focuses on one girl. So I'm like, you need to focus on them both evenly. So we love them both. And we have to make a terrible choice. But the movie only focuses on one girl. So I'm like, does the movie know what movie it's making? I thought the movie was confused.
Right.
At no point was I ever like, oh yeah, choose the other girl. At no point. 13 years later, the baby is a 13-year-old girl, and she, I guess, wants to try to speak to her mother. So she steals a scarf that used to belong to her mother, and she goes out into the woods to do, I assume, a seance. And I guess they decide to do this in like a homeless encampment, or what the fuck?
Something.
Some sort of abandoned thing in the woods. I don't know. But before they can, Leslie Odom Jr. notices that she took the scarf from her mother. And so he's like, hey, that's their mom's scarf. And he takes it back. And so they go and do the seance anyway. And the movie seems to be implying that because she didn't have the scarf, her mother never answered. And what did answer was some sort of a demon. When the two girls go missing, and which is, I think, the height of the film, I think having a child go missing is terrifying. I think that's really scary. I think it's scarier. I think it's scarier than a child dying. I think that, like, you don't know whether they're safe or whether they're in danger. So I think that is scary. But the movie was so deeply uninterested in that. The girls were missing for 3 days in the movie, but maybe 10 minutes in the real world. You know what I'm saying?
In our audience world, yes.
So like the real horror began and ended in about 10 minutes, which is such a shame. So any drama that actually happened in the film gets solved immediately. But why is her friend going along? Why is she there? Why did she get possessed?
Right.
I do not know. There was no role at all for her friend, for the second girl that gets possessed. She had no role at all in this film. I think they said we should have two people get possessed this time. And they said, ooh, and, you know, dollar signs over their eyes. But they never decided to figure out how two people would get possessed. In the original film, it was trying to give you options.
Yeah.
And you could pick one however you want to think. If you think the demon came from the attic, fine. If you think the demon came in through the window, fine. If you think the demon came in through the Ouija board, fine. The movie doesn't contradict any of that stuff. Did the demon come through that little totem that he got from Iraq?
Right.
Fine. And so the fact that they're so explicit about the exact moment, I think, was a mistake. And it was a self-imposed mistake, because there's nothing in the original film that tells you have to do that. There's no rules about how this demon would possess you. It's one of those movies that feels like it was made by a cold, dead-eyed studio guy. Instead of one girl being possessed, we'll have two possession. Double the possession, double the money. Instead, what you get is you get half the story, ironically. The story becomes nonsensical. And
yes, you have to have a catalyst for the other person to be there in the first place. Angela's relationship with her father is genuine from what you see, like Reagan's relationship with her mother was in the first film. In the beginning of the film, she wants to know more about her mother. It seems like the movie wants to tell you that the demon that was in Reagan is in these girls. And that kind of confused me throughout the film, because it's like, wait, is the demon possessing both of the girls at the same time? Is it playing hopscotch?
In the first movie, we talked before about how ambiguous a lot of the movie was. Like, what demon was inside of Reagan? The original Exorcist does not give you this answer. How many demons were inside of Reagan? The movie gives you no answers to this. And so here, it would seem, because there's a character that says, I know you, and so talking to the demon. And I'm like, you do? How do you know? How do you know the demon? Because we as the audience didn't get to know the demon. So how did she know the demon? So how many demons are we dealing with here? I don't know. And while that was interesting and scary in the first film, in this one, it's just confusing. So I'm like, is it one demon or two? Are there 4 demons or 3? Is there 13 demons or no demons? so there is a way to do this ambiguity thing to make it scary, but then there's a way to do it that makes it seem like messy. It makes it seem like a mistake. And that's what we have here. And you were talking about the relationship between our main character, little girl, she is the black girl, and her father. So that relationship was told to us in like one scene. Like, that's it. Like one scene. Yep. And then after that, she is possessed for the rest of the film. That is not how the original Exorcist goes. Now, I'm going to spend a lot of time comparing this movie to the original Exorcist, and that's so not fair. But this movie seems to want you to compare. It seems to be begging for these comparisons. So, okay, I'll do it. In the original movie, we didn't even know when she was possessed. We don't know how she was possessed. We don't know when she was possessed. And we saw a lot of scenes where I assume Reagan was normal with her mother, which helped you understand their relationship. And the fact that is missing out of this film, I think, is also a critical mistake. The original Exorcist knew, in order for you to feel horror, in order for you to dislike that demon, you have to like Reagan. And you know this movie is also lacking? Humanity. Where are the actual humans? Where are the actual people? The original film spent so much time making you sympathize for the mom, but this movie, there's no such thing. The Exorcist believer did nothing. Zero. Nothing. I don't even remember her name to make you like our main character girl. It was really trying to get to the possession as quickly as possible.
The character Chris McNeil, played by the original actress in this, she's like 90 years old now. Leslie Odom Jr.'s character goes to her to find out, you know, what's going on. She's secluded on her own and stuff. She's like, I don't even have any contact with my daughter or anything anymore. I don't know where she is. When she goes and sees what's going on with his daughter, that's when the whole thing is like, I know you. I know this demon knows me and stuff like that. Which is, that was the whole thing. It's like, is that the same demon that's in both of these girls?
Just like in the Halloween remake, this movie brings back a bunch of legacy characters from the original series or from the original movie, And one of them, of course, is our main character, who is now 90 years old. And, you know, she doesn't have a very big role, but I get that. This is a 90-year-old woman. Now, apparently, when they offered her the role, she was like, hell no, this movie sounds stupid. I would never be in this. And
Exactly.
so they doubled her salary. And she still said no. And then she realized that, you know what, I could donate my salary to an acting school. And so that's what she did. She came and she got the check and she left. And it feels like it. And it looks like it. So she's got a very small role. It has virtually no bearing on the film whatsoever. She walks into the film, she gets injured, and then she exits the film. And I think they want you to go, yeah, woo, legacy character. But did they forget that the original film is 50 years old? like all the people who would be cheering are like in the nursing home too.
It's like, Gladys, it's time to eat your peas. The white little girl's family, Catherine's family, was a devoted Baptist church, go to church every Sunday type of family. Leslie Odom Jr.'s character, he was a guy who has read the scriptures and know the scriptures, but doesn't believe.
He lost his faith after his wife died.
Hence what the name of the film comes in, where it's called Believer.
I guess, but isn't that like the whole thing of Exorcist? At least the original Exorcist, where the mom tries everything and then at the very end, she gets to a religious thing, making her a believer. So I don't know why this movie would be called Believer. I mean, perhaps at the end, the demon is like, oh, you don't believe hard enough. And so it was not until, you know, they start believing hard enough does the exorcism work. I need to think of a name for this. There's an issue with Hollywood naming movies. They seem to be picking these names out of a hat. Like, I don't know, where do they get these names from? They're very clearly naming the movie before they write the movie. And they don't really care about the title. They're just it just has to be different.
That's not just a theory. I think that is actually correct, dude, because it's like,
for Marvel, it definitely is.
Top Gun Maverick.
So terribly generic. Like, what I imagine is most of these companies are following Marvel, where Marvel will announce a big slate of movies going for 10 years, and they all have logos, and they all have titles, and nothing's written, no one's cast, you know. So, and from what I understand, they've already greenlit 2 sequels to this film. So I imagine they've got a bunch of titles, at least 2 more titles, already in their back pocket, even though the movies haven't been written yet. I wish I could tell you that it was like really poorly made. Like, I talked about all the mistakes the film did. This movie isn't actually poorly made. It's like competently made. It's just clearly rushed out. It's clearly something that the studio wanted to do. No one wanted this film. I don't think the audience wanted this film. I don't think the filmmakers wanted this film. People who actually were in the film didn't want to be in this film. I think this is a bad film. That being said, though, I will say I think Leslie Odom Jr. did what he could do. You know, I think he did what he was supposed to do. I think our 2 lead girls, I think they did what they were supposed to do. So like, again, like we got some competent filmmakers making an excruciatingly bad film, and that is the Exorcist Believer, a bad film that is trying to be elevated by competent filmmakers. But I don't think that having a script this bad and an idea this corny could elevate this film. Also, the movie's called The Exorcist, right? The Exorcist. So who was the exorcist in this film? I guess there were like 90 of them. There was like 5 people doing the exorcism at the end of the movie. So I'm like, just call it something.
I totally agree
else.
with you. I totally agree with you, because the neighbor was going to be a nun and she got pregnant and stuff, and she was in the exorcist thing, and then there was a guy there was a priest in this, and there was a preacher that was there, which was the white girl's family's preacher. He was there. So you had the voodoo lady that was there. It was like
ridiculous.
It should be S on it. The Exorcist.
Exorcists. Yeah, seriously. You know? Their neighbor was a former nun turned nurse, played by the actress who plays the villainous Aunt Lydia in A Handmaid's Tale. She is just fantastic. She comes across so evil, so horrific in A Handmaid's Tale. She is just a true nightmare human. And she was given nothing to do in this film, except they used that character to have an abortion stance. I was not expecting this movie to start preaching to me about abortion. Now, what your views on abortion are, I don't care. But I don't think anyone was expecting this film to try and preach to you about what you should do with your baby or your body. And I thought that was bizarre and uncalled for. This character, she was going to be a nun, but then I guess she left the church because she had an abortion. One of the girls, after they get possessed, they are mocking her, saying that her baby's burning in hell. I'm like, what? Why would they do that? I just thought it was uncalled for and just bizarre and strange and unnecessarily cruel. Cruel in the real world, man, but not necessarily cruel in the actual movie. And if they cut that, you would have never noticed. It was so deeply unimportant to the plot. If this movie was about abortion, like if this was like Juno, if it was about abortion or something, then okay, fine, all right. But that's not what this movie is. And they just decided to say, and then by the way, this little girl literally has a crucifix carved onto her head upside down. I don't think we need that line to make us realize she's evil. If horror movies today were just atrocious across the board, I think I would probably be a little more lenient on this film. But the fact that A24 very consistently kills the game, with horror, the fact that I feel like the horror genre has never been stronger since like the 1980s, and then this comes out, I'm gonna give it a much lower score than I think I would have given it if this movie had come out maybe 10 years prior. It's going to sound kind of cruel, but this is almost like the Marvelization of horror films, where they're trying to crank these movies out, right? Just like they did with the Halloween remake, where they were like, we've got these 3 movies coming out. We don't give a damn whether or not they're good or not. We just have these 3, they're coming out. Same thing with this film. They're like, we've got these 3 movies. This is the new Exorcist series. I don't care if you like them. I don't care whether they make money. They're coming.
In today's market for horror films, They could do better. This film lack of creativity. This film lacked a in-depth story, and they just tried to nostalgia bait you with certain things that you see from the previous film, and that is not going to work in this film. The only shining light that's in this film is Leslie Odom Jr. He did what he could do in this film.
I thought the girls were good too. I didn't think they were bad. I liked the 2 girls.
And the girls did a great job, but I got to give this film a C-.
C-. Yep, I'm giving this film a D. And I'm not giving this film a D because of its bizarre abortion stance. I'm not giving this film a D for being another lame legacy sequel. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm giving this film a D because I thought it was straight up nonsensical. And I thought it was boring. I'm giving it a D because I've seen this movie 100 times. And before the year is out, I'm probably going to see this movie again. And that is just lame. I've said this before, I don't like it when movies don't give me any room to breathe. They don't give me any room to think. In this movie, you're not allowed to do anything like that. You sit down, goddamn it, you eat your fucking popcorn, and you jump when the dog barks, you son of a bitch, and then you give me the money. That's what this movie feels like. I'm mugging.
That's basically what it is. You're getting robbed. You're getting robbed for your time and your money when you go see this film. But I think these people are not having several drafts. They're not.
Hey, you might be right. They're just cranking these things out.
Cranking it out. So I guess you don't recommend this to people, do you?
No, I don't recommend it. If you liked the original Exorcist, good God, stay away from this. If you didn't like it, and we talked about this before, a lot of modern audiences find the original Exorcist to be slow and boring. This movie, while this movie does have a much faster pace, right, and it does have much more modern jump scares, somehow it is still slow and boring.
So I do not recommend you guys go see this film either. This, the classic is what it is for a reason, and they did not add upon it. But more importantly, do you recommend this film? Have you seen The Exorcist Believer? I don't think you should. But get in the comments and let us know what you thought about this film. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Our subscriber count is going up. So if you're new to seeing our face, hit that subscribe button right at the bottom. It's right down there saying hello. Lionel Richie style.
Hello. Is it me you're looking for?
That's funny.
Okay. And if you liked our rating review for this film, please hit that thumbs up. Or you can hit that thumbs down, whichever you choose. It is your opinion. Just remember one thing, it's mostly wrong. See you in another movie review. Peace out.